Hello everybody, I'm Sarah and I'm a recorder player. So this is our daughter. Her name is Bodil, or Bo for short, and yeah, she's great. So a few weeks ago, as many of you know, I had a baby and I thought I would do something a bit different this week. I thought I would talk about how being pregnant affected my work as a musician and as a freelancer. When I was pregnant, I found it really helpful to watch vlogs of other working mums to see how they coped. So today I'm going to have a chat with you about the physical aspects and the mental aspects of having babies and how that affected musical professional life. Now, I was pretty lucky to have a very normal pregnancy. There weren't any big dramas. I had a lot of the normal pregnancy complaints, but we'll get to those. And I kept working until around 36, 37 weeks. 37 weeks I gave my last concert, and at that point I was really ready to go on maternity leave. So the thing that people always ask me is, how did having a giant pregnant belly affect my airstream? When you play the recorder, you are breathing and blowing, and was that still possible? I have to say that went a lot better than I expected. I think I was expecting it to be really, really difficult, and for that reason I practiced a lot harder. So I think in that sense I compensated for it. At 37 weeks I played a concert with the Royal Wind. Hopefully you saw my video from last week, and I had to play the giant contrabass recorder, and and that went okay. I got very short of breath when doing exercise, and by exercise I mean walking up the stairs, but in terms of actually breathing and playing the recorder, it was really okay. The thing that was a lot tougher than I expected was my energy levels. I was not prepared for how exhausting being pregnant would be. Now, if you're a freelance professional person, you will know that you are doing things at all hours of the day. In any given day, normally I would have rehearsals, concerts, meetings, teaching, workshops, administration, filming videos, and I'd have my schedule packed throughout, and this was no longer possible. A lot of the time I was only capable of doing one thing per day, and that thing could be a rehearsal, or answering emails, or walking to the supermarket. After that I would be wiped out. So that was pretty tough to deal with. I ended up really prioritizing what was essential to do then and what was necessary. I was better at saying no to things that weren't essential, and I became more efficient with my time. If I knew I'd have an hour until I crashed out, then I just got my stuff done instead of looking at Twitter all the time. I also found that after a concert I would need a day or two to recover. After my concert that I played at 37 weeks, I needed a full 3 days to recover from that. I found it really helped to be very honest with my colleagues, for example the people I was playing with, and really set boundaries, like, okay, we finish the rehearsal at this time and I leave, or the concert is at this time and then I don't help with packing up, I just go home and sleep. It's not helped by the fact that when you're pregnant, a lot of the time you really can't sleep, especially in the later weeks. You have to get up 4 times every night to pee, then you've got a giant bump, you can't get comfortable, and the whole time your brain is running like, oh my god, how do I do this? I haven't bought this yet, how am I going? The good thing about the recorder, it doesn't take huge amounts of physical exertion to play. Apart from the giant instruments, when I was playing the big bass recorders, I really had to sit down a lot and eat a lot of cake. For me, one of the hardest parts of my pregnancy was the morning sickness. And whoever calls it morning sickness was a big liar, because it is 24 hours a day. Oh, that was just awful. It was just basically those 2 months when I was really sick. I couldn't really practice, I couldn't really concentrate. I had this grand plan to do all of this technical practice and learn all of these new pieces, and at that time it just wasn't possible, and my health had to come first. I found that I felt a lot more sick if I was tired or if I was dehydrated, so I tried to sleep and drink water. One of the really awful things is that morning sickness typically hits in your first trimester, and then I wasn't actually telling people that I was pregnant. But for me, it really helped to take a couple of close friends and colleagues in confidence to tell them. So if I was at a rehearsal and I felt like death, I could just look at them and go, ooh, and they could give me that bit of support. When you're a musician, you're often away a lot, you're traveling, you're on tour, and you're kind of eating junk foods that you buy in the gas station. I found this really did not help for the acid reflux and for the nausea, so just make sure you're prepared and you're taking healthy snacks with you that aren't going to make you feel like crap. One thing that actually came up a lot is that when you're pregnant, you're not meant to carry things. I didn't realise as a musician how often you are lugging stuff around, from instruments on your back, bags of books, speakers, electronics, PA systems. There were so many occasions where I had to say, sorry, can you carry it for me? There was one instance where I was walking with all my instruments on my back, all my teaching equipment, my laptop, and I really felt physically, oh, this doesn't feel good. And I actually had to leave all of that stuff at work and go back later and pick it up with the car. So really listen to your body and don't be afraid to ask people for help. So you've got this giant bump growing, and that is going to affect your professional life in all these little ways. One of these ways was concert clothes. What was I going to wear? I actually bought one really nice stretchy black dress from New Look Maternity. It was about €15 and that carried me well through all of my concerts. I was in a music theatre production that required me to roll on the floor, and as I got bigger this got more and more difficult, so I had to figure out ways of doing this safely without looking completely strange. And I also give a lot of music workshops. One of these is body percussion. So I had to amend all of my body percussion rhythms so that I wasn't slapping my belly, because that didn't feel very good. So there were all these little ways that I never thought about before that suddenly my bump was affecting my work. Another thing is your hair and your skin. So everyone says, oh, you've got that pregnancy glow, but in my case that glow meant oil. And when I'm performing, I like to look a certain way. I like to have my makeup nice and my hair nice. I actually had to buy new makeup and skincare products to cope with the grease coming out of my face. Another important part of being, especially a recorder player, is that you are often sharing instruments. And when you're pregnant, you don't want to get sick. I had to be very careful that I didn't catch things from people like the flu or anything that could give me a fever, or cold sores, because that can be dangerous for your baby. This meant that whenever I was rehearsing with people that I had to share instruments with, I was always spraying my instruments with this magical thing called Flautisept, which is like an antiseptic spray. I also teach children, and for a couple of weeks I had to cancel my lessons with some students when they had the chicken pox, because that can be dangerous for pregnant people. And further to that, being pregnant and appearing on stage can actually be really fun. When I'm on stage, the adrenaline kicks in and I kind of forgot about the tiredness and the fatigue, and I could just go for it and perform. Afterwards I would crash, but on stage it was worth it. And the reactions from audiences are really funny, especially when you get on stage with a big bump. They're all like, huh? So I think I've said everything about the physical aspect of pregnancy. Those were the things I struggled with. If you had other things, then let me know in the comments. Now, I think it's really important to talk about the emotional and mental aspects of pregnancy. Now, I was predominantly happy and excited for this baby. I was feeling really positive about it, but that doesn't mean to say that it was easy. There were a lot of fears, worries, anxiety, and I think it's very important that those emotions aren't taboo. I want to say that I'm not a medical professional, and if you are pregnant or you've just had a baby and you're feeling bad in a way that's getting too much, then please go and see the doctor and see someone professional, because postnatal depression is a real thing and it should be handled and tackled. So, emotions in pregnancy. First of all, your body is full of an insane amount of hormones. You feel like you're on a roller coaster all the time. And everyone's saying, oh my God, you must be so happy. You must be on a cloud. And you're like, yeah, I'm happy, but I'm terrified. And then you feel guilty for not feeling happy all the time. Oh, I think I just moved the camera, sorry. So some of the emotions that went through my head as a pregnant freelance musician. The first was the worry about combining work with motherhood. Now, I have been working my butt off as a musician for the past 15 years or something. My career is a huge part of my life and my identity, and I was terrified about how I would combine that. Both my husband and I tour a lot and we have a lot of concerts abroad. How is this going to be possible with a baby? Basically, I spent the first half of my pregnancy really worrying about this, trying to plan everything, trying to think of strategies for every possible situation. And in the end, I realized it just wasn't going to be possible to plan it like that. At a certain point, I just let go. I thought, okay, I don't know how it's going to be being a parent. I don't know how the baby will be. I don't know how we'll both feel. Let's cross that bridge when we come to it. And to be honest, we don't have a solution. We have a lot of work planned in the coming couple of years, but this is just going to be a baby whose parents don't have 9-to-5 office jobs. So if you are a working musician parent, please let me know how you do it. So although I don't have a solution to give to you, it was much better for myself and for my relationship with my husband when I stopped panicking about it all the time. It's good to talk about it, and at a certain point I kind of had to let that worry go. The other emotional aspect that I really had to deal with was coming to terms with the fact that your life is changing in a huge way. But I was very used to a lifestyle of working and rehearsing and being up late and going out and socializing, and everyone in my life was in the same kind of busy social lifestyle. And all of a sudden I was just sitting at home resting on maternity leave, not doing all of the things that I used to do, and this can feel really isolating. In the grand scheme of things, maternity leave is a short amount of time, it's temporary, but I actually felt really alone during mine. You're on the couch like a giant tired whale, looking at Facebook and just seeing all of your friends and colleagues playing these amazing festivals and going out to parties, and I just felt like my life has stopped. I dealt with this by reaching out and confiding in a couple of people who were close to me. For example, with my mum, she would call me every day just for a couple of minutes to check in, and I found that helped so much. Now, I don't want to sound ungrateful. I'm so happy to have this little baby here, but before I got pregnant, I expected that I would be on a happy cloud during the whole pregnancy, and I would just feel like, ah. And of course I didn't, because I'm a human being, and I would feel guilty for not feeling phenomenally happy all the time. And it's really important to just give yourself a break. If you have a day when you feel like crap, just let yourself have a good cry, watch some TV, eat some chocolate and ride it out. Tell someone that you trust, and if you feel like it's getting to a point where you're like, this isn't getting better, then please seek some professional help. So those are my words of advice. The last practical thing I'm going to talk about, which is really important for freelance musicians, is the question of your maternity leave. If you're like me and you're not employed by one company, but you do 40 different things, it can be quite hard to know how to structure your maternity leave. Now, this of course is going to depend very much on your own situation, what it's like in the country where you live, what kind of support they offer, what your financial situation is. As a musician, it's easy to just keep on going, and before you know it, you've worked right up until your birth. A friend gave me the advice to rest properly before the birth so that you have enough energy to kind of start parenthood with. And I followed that, and that was really great. I'm very happy that I took about 4 weeks off before the baby came. As a freelancer, it was harder than I expected to enforce these boundaries. Now, with a lot of my work, teaching, education, it was more cut and dry. I could say, okay, I start my maternity leave here, I come back here, I've organised a substitute. For things like concerts, rehearsals, I had people asking me if I could come and rehearse 2 weeks after giving birth. There were a lot of instances where I really had to enforce my boundaries and say, no, I'm taking this time off, I will be back then. And I had to stay strong for that, and I'm really happy I did. For Team Recorder, I actually got organised and made 9 videos in advance so that for 9 weeks I didn't have to do anything at all. They could just be published automatically online. So I hope you liked those. I'm still planning on making a video every week. I feel like I've left a load of stuff out, but yeah, if you are a working parent, especially if you're a freelancer or if you work in the arts, please share your experiences below, mainly so that you can tell me how to do it. Maybe in a couple of years I'll make a video on combining parenthood with musician professional life, but for now we're just kind of learning how it goes. Oh. So I'm going to sign off because she's having a bit of a cry, but this was my experience of being a pregnant musician freelancer. Every person and every pregnancy is going to be different, but I hope you found this useful or interesting. As always, you can subscribe to my channel by clicking on my face down here in the corner. If you would like to support Team Record It, you can do so by heading over to our Patreon page. And up here, I'm going to put a link to my video on self-care for musicians, because that's very important too. So from me and Bodil, thanks for watching and have a great week.